Cue the dramatic music. You've just entered the right place at the right time. If this is your grand entrance to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button like you mean it, and pass this video along to someone who deserves a little awesome today. Now tell me, from what city or country are you watching this epic moment? I read every single comment like it's a plot twist. Let's kick things off in style. The rain came down in relentless sheets as I eased the black town car to a halt outside the Meridian Club. 3 women tumbled through the front doors, heels clacking against the wet concrete, their laughter too loud, too carefree for women their age. Behind the darkened glass, they didn't even glance at me, just another driver in another suit. "I still can't believe Serena's actually going through with marrying that guy," said the blonde as she climbed into the back. Jessica Thorne. Her name had been on the reservation list. Old money pedigree with the attitude to match. "Seriously," the brunette added, Roxy Banks. "Isn't he just some driver? What's that bring in? 40,000 a year, maybe?" Ashley Kim was the last to get in, pulling the door closed behind her. "My dog walker makes more than that." I adjusted the rearview mirror slightly, catching their reflections under the dim overhead lights inside the cabin. The bill of my cap shaded my eyes, and the mask covering the lower half of my face, still standard post-COVID, added a layer of anonymity. A small LED on the passenger side blinked softly, recording in progress. Visible but always ignored. "Where to tonight?" I asked, keeping my tone even. "The Brass Monkey on 5th, Jessica answered, already twisting back toward the others. I pulled into traffic, the wipers straining to keep up with the storm. The GPS offered the usual options, but I chose a third, one not on the screen. "Remember when she was with Troy Vale?" Roxy said, digging into the past. "Now that man had presence." "Total heartthrob," Ashley added, and loaded. "That penthouse near the river?" Jessica rolled her eyes. "She said he was emotionally unavailable." She even mimed air quotes. Translation: he wasn't proposing fast enough, so she downgraded to the hired help. They all cracked up behind me. I didn't react. My hands stayed fixed on the wheel. "Come on," Ashley said through a chuckle. "Don't be so brutal." "Please," Roxy scoffed. "Nice guys don't pay for Louis Vuitton. Or that ridiculous condo she's been chasing. She's living in a dream world." I veered off the route to downtown, cutting toward the river district instead. Through the curtain of rain, I could make out the shape of Troy's residential tower. Jessica dropped her voice to a whisper, like she couldn't help herself. "Okay, you didn't hear this from me, but—" They went still. Only the rain drummed against the roof. "What?" Roxy asked, leaning forward. Jessica grinned. "Word is, she's not completely over Troy." "Sarah said they still message each other sometimes," Ashley gasped. "You're kidding." Jessica shook her head. "And listen, don't tell Serena, but apparently he still has a key." I felt my knuckles tighten on the wheel. I pulled into the semicircular driveway of Troy's tower and brought the car to a smooth stop. Driver?" Ashley said, her voice cautious. "This isn't 5th." I turned to face them for the first time. Jessica froze, recognition blooming in her expression. "Evening, ladies," I said. "Plans have changed." The next day, I sat at my desk in the small office at home, earbuds in, reviewing the prior night's recording. Every word was crisp. Legally captured, of course. Standard policy for commercial livery services. The posted signage made it clear. No one ever bothered to read it. The conversation was damning, unfiltered, petty, cruel, but one sentence pierced through everything else. "Don't tell Serena, but he still has her key." I saved the file onto a small USB drive and slipped it into my jacket pocket. When I found Serena later that day, she was standing at her vanity, finishing her lipstick. She looked sharp, poised, professional, every inch the businesswoman who'd built her own firm from nothing. I used to admire that about her. "How was the shift?" she asked, eyes on her own reflection. "Same as always," I replied. While she scrolled through her phone, I quietly opened the drawer beneath her makeup kit. I tucked the USB beneath a compact and eased the drawer closed without a sound. She didn't notice. I've got dinner meetings all week, she said. Can you handle groceries? Of course. She leaned in, gave me a quick, perfunctory kiss on the cheek, and walked out. Her heels tapped down the hallway, the same sharp rhythm her friends had made the night before. Later that evening, just as I was changing into my uniform, I heard her voice call out, tight and panicked. Nate, come here right now. She was on the bed, laptop open in front of her, clutching the USB in one hand. Her face was pale, hands trembling. What is this? She asked, her voice shaking. Audio from last night's ride, I said, calm. You recorded them? There's a sign, I replied. You've seen it, Serena. Procedure was standard. She stood abruptly, visibly rattled. They're my friends, she said, voice unsteady. Are you sure about that? I countered. She tapped play again, forcing herself to listen as each harsh line echoed back. The bit about Troy's spare key seemed to land like a punch. This can't be legal, she finally said. Check with your legal team, I replied. It's a commercial vehicle. Posted signage, signed waivers, everything's above board. You can't use that against me. I reached for my cap, grabbed my keys from the dresser. I haven't used anything yet. Her tone turned sharp. What's that even supposed to mean? Standing just outside the bedroom, I looked over my shoulder. Next time you speak ill of me, make sure no one's recording. Jace Feller slid into the cracked booth across from me at the Route 9 diner, our old spot from senior year. He ran a clean operation now. GPS analytics, fleet tracking, full-scale logistics support. You look like trash, he said, not bothering with pleasantries. Good to see you too, I muttered. I need something. Don't you always? I passed him my phone, screen lit with a list of names. I want to map out their routines, where they go, who they're with, what days they move. Jace lifted a brow. These some of Serena's crew? A few, yeah. He eyed the list again. What's the reason? Information is power. He studied the names, then leaned back. This better not be illegal. I run a clean business. Everything I source is open. Ride logs, geo-tagged posts, location metadata. That's all I need, I said. Stick to what's public. He gave it a beat, then nodded. I can pull tagged locations, cross-reference with rideshare APIs, see what patterns show up. A pause. Just be careful, Nate. Whatever you're planning, it's got sharp edges. 3 days later, he texted me a report. Jessica Thorne, regular at the Meridian Club every Thursday, always took a ride home. Roxy Banks, Tuesday yoga class, weekday lunches downtown, consistent drop-offs near Troy's neighborhood. Ashley Kim, predictably patterned, fixed routes, same time slots each day. But one name stood out. Ellie Shore, bridesmaid at Rachel's wedding, friend of Serena. That night she had booked a ride through my service. I was already waiting when she came out of her building. Tall frame, athletic build, nervous energy. She slipped into the back seat, froze when our eyes met in the mirror. You're Nate, she said, half a question. And you're Ellie. She fiddled with her handbag strap, avoiding direct eye contact. Your destination's Elm Street, right? I asked, checking the app. She gave a small nod, still watching my reflection. I'm just your driver tonight, I assured her. Still, she sat tense the entire ride. Something was weighing on her. She didn't say another word until she reached home. But 3 days later, her name showed up again. This time she called around midnight, slurring her words. I'm drunk. Rosewood Bar, can you come get me? She was leaning against a graffiti-covered wall when I pulled up. Smudged eyeliner, dress wrinkled, heels in hand. She collapsed into the back seat and immediately began to cry. I'm awful, she said between sobs. What makes you say that? I know things, she whispered. Things I should have said but didn't. I adjusted the rearview mirror. What kind of things? Her hands shook as she scrolled through her phone. From Rachel's wedding. I was on photo duty, nothing formal, just capturing moments. I remembered the night. Serena had worn that striking red gown. I'd stood in the back making small talk with strangers. I got this one picture, Ellie said, turning the phone to me. Check the time. 11:47 p.m. The photo showed two figures tucked behind the reception tent, framed by soft lights and sheer fabric, locked in a kiss. The woman? Serena, I'd know that dress anywhere. The man? Not me. That's Troy Vale, Ellie said quietly. He came as Rachel's cousin's guest. I pulled over, shifted the car into park. Can I take a closer look? Her hand trembled as she passed the phone forward. The image was clear, lighting perfect, faces unmistakable. She swiped. 3 more photos followed, all within the same minute. Rachel begged me to erase them, Ellie murmured. She was afraid it would ruin her wedding memories. I told her I did. But you kept them? I couldn't bring myself to delete them. What if, someday? She met my gaze in the mirror, eyes swollen from tears. What if someone someday needed the entire picture? I handed her phone back without saying a word. What's your plan? I asked quietly. She didn't respond right away. Her eyes stayed locked on the photos, unmoving. Then, without a word, she opened her AirDrop menu. I want to make this right, she finally said. Moments later, all 4 images appeared in my inbox. The ride back to her apartment passed in silence. As she stepped out of the car, she paused, turned slightly. I should have been honest with you sooner, Nate. I'm sorry. You told me when it mattered, I replied. That evening, I prepared a second USB drive. No recordings this time, just the 4 photos, each with its original timestamp intact. Serena's firm was hosting a client mixer that night atop Meridian Tower, the same rooftop where her friends had laughed at me just days earlier. Strange how fate tends to circle back. I wasn't there as her husband. I'd been hired to drive VIP guests, black vehicle, black tie, 0 conversation, back to being invisible, just the way they preferred it. The guest list was worth studying. I'd spent the last 3 days combing through it, matching names against the patterns Jace had uncovered. Most of Serena's closest allies would be present, along with some potential business partners and, unexpectedly, a few names that didn't belong. Troy Vale made that list. I picked him up from his high-rise condo at exactly 7 p.m. He wore a sleek charcoal suit that probably cost more than my monthly earnings. Meridian Tower, he said, not even glancing up from his phone. Of course, sir. He'd ridden in my car before, though I doubt he remembered. Guys like Troy don't see drivers as people, just background noise. That worked in my favor tonight. We moved through downtown traffic for about 12 minutes. He stayed on speaker the whole time, loudly discussing a merger. He never once paused to consider I might be following every detail. When we pulled up, I opened his door and offered a nod. Enjoy your evening, Mr. Vale. He muttered something that could have been thanks, and headed inside without a second look. I left the car in the service lane and took the freight elevator up. By the time I reached the rooftop, the event was already buzzing. A string quartet played softly. The bar was stocked. The city glittered beyond the railing. Serena stood in the center, radiant in a black dress, her laugh cutting above the hum of conversation. She was mid-pitch, presenting the company's new digital strategy, when Troy made his entrance. It couldn't have been timed better. She froze, just for a second, her eyes locking on him. Conversations dropped. Heads turned. A current of whispers moved through the crowd. I stayed near the bar designated for staff, blending in easily. No one noticed me. I watched the social choreography unfold. Jessica Thorne made her way to Troy first, then Roxy Banks. Ashley Kim lingered behind them, visibly tense. The photographer wandered the party, capturing what he called authentic moments for Serena's branding efforts. I kept out of his shots, but tracked his movements carefully. Serena ended her speech to polite applause and made her way to the restroom. I waited, keeping my distance. When she came out, she looked composed, but her posture was too tight, her smile too deliberate. Evening, Serena, I said. She turned quickly, startled. What are you doing here? Working, I replied evenly. Same as you. You brought him, didn't you? Troy? He booked the ride. I accepted. She leaned in, voice sharp with fury. You're trying to destroy me. I'm fulfilling my contract. She stepped in closer, trembling with rage. I know exactly what's going on. The surveillance, the recordings. You've been watching my friends? Is there a problem here, ma'am? We both turned to see the event photographer standing nearby, camera raised. Our exchange had caught his attention, and possibly his lens. Serena's expression transformed instantly. Her smile turned pristine, camera ready. "No problem at all," she said sweetly. "Just saying hello to my husband." The photographer hesitated, then lowered his camera and moved on, content with what he'd captured. Serena brushed past me, her shoulder bumping mine as she made for the elevator. "This isn't over," she said under her breath. At exactly 9:15 a.m. the following Monday, an email dropped into Serena's work inbox. I knew the moment it landed, because I was parked across the street, watching her walk into the office. The email arrived from someone using the alias, "a concerned friend." The subject line was stark and direct. "Audio you need to hear." Attached was a 2-minute audio clip, Jessica, Roxy, and Ashley mocking me without restraint. And then came the real punch. Mention of Troy's spare apartment key. By 9:45 a.m., Serena's assistant was already inundated, juggling an unusual flurry of incoming calls. By 10:30, 3 separate individuals had arrived at her office, each of them visibly tense. By noon, Jessica Thorne herself had stormed into the lobby, her face flushed with anger. From across the street, I sat at a cafe and watched it all unfold. Their argument spilled onto the sidewalk, Serena and Jessica, voices raised, arms moving with sharp gestures. Pedestrians veered out of their path, instinctively avoiding the scene. Eventually, Jessica turned and marched away, leaving Serena standing alone, fixated on her phone, rooted to the concrete. Later that afternoon, something unexpected appeared beneath my windshield wiper, a valet ticket neatly placed under the blade. The stamp on the stub identified it as coming from Troy Vale's building. On the reverse, a unit number had been carefully written in blue ink. The handwriting was feminine, refined, definitely not Serena's. Intriguing. Tuesdays were routine for Troy. He always ate dinner at Porterhouse, same table, same time. Jace had traced his pattern using social media posts and publicly accessible card transaction logs. I used that information to plan accordingly. Troy had an 8 p.m. reservation that night. Meanwhile, Serena had a corporate engagement set to finish at 9:30 across town. Factoring in traffic, she'd likely arrive around 10. I parked in a spot directly facing the restaurant's entrance, perfect visibility, no obstructions. Right on schedule, at 9:52 p.m., Troy exited the building. He handed off his valet slip and began scrolling through his phone. 5 minutes later, at 9:57, Serena's black Audi pulled up. She stepped out wearing the same form-fitting black dress from the rooftop event. Composed, stylish, every bit the high-powered executive. The valet clearly recognized her. They exchanged familiar greetings. Troy noticed her almost immediately. He straightened, his body language alert, and a sly, familiar grin stretched across his face. They met out front, speaking animatedly. To a stranger, it might have seemed like a chance encounter, but not to the camera lens. Riley Matthews, a lifestyle influencer with a fixation on the city's upper crust, was nearby, snapping photos of the restaurant crowd for her blog. Serena and Troy unknowingly walked right into her frame. One flash, then another. Caught. I stayed in my car, engine off, out of sight. There was nothing more I needed to do. The pictures would tell the story on their own. Let the audience draw their own conclusions. My phone buzzed. A message from Jace. Strategy meeting tonight at Roxy's. Booze is flowing. Timing's ideal. Serena's circle was regrouping. Drinks pouring, rumors swirling, panic setting in. Roxy Banks lived in a trendy converted warehouse in the city's arts district. Polished industrial, brick walls, massive windows. Her garage was private and gated, with dedicated spaces and a few extra spots for guests. I'd driven Roxy twice before. She liked smooth rides and specifically requested me through the app. Tonight was no exception. I picked her up after a business dinner and drove her back to her place. "Let's take the long way," she said as we left. "It's been a hell of a night." "I need to decompress." "Tough evening?" I asked. She exhaled. "Just friend stuff," she mumbled. sounding drained and evasive. I cruised slowly through downtown while she vented. No names, just cryptic comments about men making bad choices and women cleaning up the mess. When we arrived, I helped her retrieve her bags from the trunk. "You're a lifesaver, Nate. Really." I nodded and pulled into a guest spot, shutting the engine off. Her building had a unique acoustic flaw. Third-floor balconies acted like funnels, channeling sound down into the garage. On still nights like this, even low conversation carried clearly. I cracked the window and waited. At 10:47, I began to hear voices. Light laughter, glasses clinking, the quiet squeak of a sliding door opening. "This is exactly what I needed," Serena said, her voice relaxed and slightly slurred. "Wine heals all wounds," Roxy replied with a laugh. "Well, most of them." More laughter followed, then lowered voices, too soft to make out from my position. I checked my watch. Normally, I would have already dropped Roxy off and left, but I had another scheduled ride in 20 minutes, plenty of reason to stay parked. There's nothing inherently suspicious about waiting around. "Maybe I should just call him," Serena said again, her voice more assertive this time. "Call who?" asked Ashley Kim, who had apparently joined the chat. "Troy. Maybe it's better if I talk to him face to face. Get closure the proper way." "Serena, absolutely not," Jessica jumped in fast. "Not after that reporter saw you two." "That wasn't some orchestrated meeting. He just happened to show up." "Right. And that audio file just happened to land in my inbox?" Roxy chimed in, her tone razor sharp. "If you still have feelings for him—" "I don't," Serena interrupted. "Or maybe— I don't know. It's complicated." "Then uncomplicate it," Roxy replied. "Meet him, end it, get your peace. But be smart. Do it somewhere off the radar. No photos, no surveillance." I started the engine and pulled out of the garage. I'd heard everything I needed. As I reached the main road, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown sender. "Don't forget your keys." I let out a half smile and forwarded it to Serena. By the time I reached the stairwell inside the parking deck, Troy was already there. I'd suspected this wouldn't be a random encounter. That valet ticket tucked beneath my wiper yesterday? Not an accident. An invitation. Someone had set this up. "You think you're clever?" he asked, stepping in front of the elevator to block me. "I'm just doing my job," I said evenly. "Cut the crap, Nate. I know exactly what this is." The stairwell was narrow, plain concrete, no room to move. He stood on a higher step, trying to use height as leverage. Old-school intimidation tactic. "Is that right?" I said. "Then why don't you tell me, what am I doing?" "You're screwing with my life. With hers, too." I took a step closer, closing the space between us. "You mean the life where you still carry the key to my wife's apartment?" His jaw flexed. "That's none of your business. Everything that involves Serena is my business." He stepped down to level ground, bringing us eye to eye. I caught a whiff of his cologne and saw the vein pulsing in his neck. "She came to me after the wedding," he said. "Told me she made a mistake." "Oh? That's the story she gave you?" "She pleaded for another shot. Said marrying you was a regret." A short laugh escaped me. "You're pathetic." That's when he lunged. The punch came fast but clumsy, telegraphed like a man who'd never seen a real fight. I snatched his wrist, twisted it hard, and slammed an elbow into his gut. He folded instantly, gasping for air. My turn. I seized his shoulders and drove my knee straight into his ribs. He crashed against the concrete wall and crumpled to the floor. His phone slipped from his jacket and skidded across the ground. "Stay down, Troy." He tried to push himself up, but I planted a boot on his chest and kept him pinned. "The key," I said coldly. "What?" "The apartment key. Hand it over." With trembling fingers, he reached into his coat and pulled out a familiar silver key on a leather loop. I knew it well. I'd given it to Serena on our first anniversary. I took the key and then stooped to pick up his phone. The screen had cracked, but it still worked. Scrolling through his contacts, I found Serena's number, deleted it, and dropped the phone into the storm drain at the foot of the stairs. "If you ever think about pulling another stunt," I told him, "remember who you're playing with." Then I turned and walked away, leaving him slouched on the floor, bruised, breathless and humiliated more than hurt. Later that evening, I sent Serena a picture of the stairwell. No explanation, just a single caption. Careful, slippery path. 3 nights went by before Ellie Shore called me just after midnight. I can't do this anymore, she said. Her voice was steady, but the weight behind it was unmistakable. I'm done covering for her. What happened? She called me tonight. Asked me to pretend I never saw anything at the wedding. Claimed the pictures were fake. Doctored. I sat up. And what did you say? I told her the truth. That I've been sick with guilt for 2 years. That it's eaten away at me. That maybe, if she'd just been honest from the beginning. How did she react? Ellie let out a low, bitter laugh. Accused me of being jealous. Of her job, her marriage, her whole lifestyle. Said I wanted to destroy what she had. I'm sorry. Don't be. Honestly, it felt good. First time I've spoken it aloud. What I saw. When I saw it. No more secrets. The next morning I contacted Thomas Bradley, our family's estate attorney. Conservative, cautious, expensive but rock solid. I need to talk about separation, I told him. Without hesitation, he asked, what are the grounds? Marital waste, emotional abandonment, possible infidelity. I have documentation, photos, and a witness ready to testify. Do you have any proof, gifts, time logs, anything pointing to an affair? Yeah, it's recent, and it's been going on for more than 2 years. Bradley hesitated. You know Colorado's a no-fault divorce state, right? You don't need to demonstrate infidelity to file. I'm aware, I said, but if she's been misusing shared finances? Documented dissipation of marital property can affect the settlement. All right, he said. Come into the office tomorrow. Bring everything, every detail you can get your hands on. That same day, Serena's major client pitch fell apart, publicly and painfully. After weeks of rehearsals and design tweaks, her assistant accidentally sent the wrong version to the company's execs. The file was riddled with edit marks, blunt annotations, and sarcastic jabs aimed at the client's outdated image and cookie-cutter suburban branding. The backlash came fast, a contract worth 6 figures, lost in seconds. Serena went straight to her social feed, launching a dramatic accusation. She claimed betrayal from within, calling out so-called allies who smiled at her while sabotaging her efforts behind closed doors. Her followers swarmed in support, offering sympathetic comments and angry emojis. But the inner circle, Jessica, Roxy, Ashley, they knew exactly who had really crossed the line. They'd heard their own voices in that audio clip. They understood what betrayal truly looked like. By Saturday morning, I began dismantling what was left of our shared life. 2 years married, 7 together, all reduced to moving boxes and bags marked for charity. I held the lease, had signed off when her credit was in shambles after that failed business venture. Nearly all the furniture was mine, acquired slowly over the years. I arranged for Goodwill to pick up what I didn't need. I kept the essentials, clothes, personal devices, a few keepsakes. The rest? Donation receipt, tax deduction. Serena wasn't home, off in the mountains with her clients on some corporate getaway. Team building, she'd said. She wouldn't be back until late Sunday. As dusk settled over the skyline, the apartment stood vacant. Only one item remained. A USB drive. On the floor, right where our bed had once been. Inside were 4 photographs from our wedding, each one date-stamped. No ambiguity, no denial. I placed my key on the kitchen counter and headed across town to the extended stay hotel I'd booked in advance. Low profile, off the grid, a temporary refuge. At exactly 8:23 p.m., my phone lit up. Serena, her voice trembled, raw with emotion. What did you do? I moved out, I told her. You can't just walk away like this, the apartment. The lease is in my name. I signed it. I paid the rent. That means I leave when I choose. But where am I supposed to stay? Not my responsibility anymore. Nate, please, can we not just fix this? You're not asking the right question, I replied. I already know the truth. The only thing left is whether you're ready to own up to it. A long pause. Then she asked, the flash drive. Where did you get those photos? Does it even matter? They're fake. Somebody tampered with them. No, I said. How can you be certain? Because I trust the person who gave them to me more than I trust you. Click. She ended the call. The storm hit Denver hard. Fast winds, black skies, sheets of water turning streets into rivers. I wasn't out for vengeance, just closure. I'd found her laptop bag while packing, something she'd left in my car ages ago, and decided to return it. No note, no dramatics. Her new residence was a generic apartment block out in the suburbs. Nothing special, nothing memorable. The bag was luxury grade, leather, waterproof, expensive, designed to project confidence. I left it by her door, folded neatly on top of a typed letter. The letter spelled everything out. Who gets what, no dispute, clean break. That's when something in the side mirror caught my attention. A car idled in the lot. Headlights on. Troy's black BMW. He'd been waiting. I got behind the wheel and eased out of the parking area. Sure enough, he tailed me. City traffic wasn't bad, but once we merged onto I-25, conditions turned brutal. Torrential rain, poor visibility, roads gleaming like polished metal. He stepped on the gas and pulled up beside me. His window was down, water pouring in. He shouted something, but the storm drowned it out completely. I tapped the brakes, just a little. He panicked, oversteered. The BMW fishtailed violently. Tires screamed against wet asphalt. The car spun out, skidding across multiple lanes. Years of training surged forward in that moment. Defensive driving courses, hazard navigation, crash avoidance drills, and I put every bit of it to use. I guided the vehicle gently through the curve, deliberately giving him a window to recover control. He didn't take it. The BMW rotated once completely, then slid in reverse until it slammed into the guardrail with a sharp metallic wail that tore through the curtain of rain. Steam poured from beneath the crumpled hood like smoke from a battlefield. I pulled off to the shoulder, hazard lights blinking, then sprinted through the downpour toward the crash site. Troy was conscious, clearly shaken, the collapsed airbag drooping over his lap like a used parachute. "Can you stand?" I asked, keeping my voice level. He gave a weak nod, fingers trembling as they fought with the seatbelt latch. "Good. Then pay attention," I said, leaning closer. "This ends right here. No more following me, no more games, no more reaching out to her. Understand?" He stared up through the rain, both of us soaked to the bone, our breath fogging in the cold. "You hearing me?" I pressed again. He nodded slowly. "Yeah," he murmured. "It's over." I helped him out of the wreck, holding his arm until he was steady on the wet pavement. The car was beyond repair, but he'd survive, and sometimes that's all the closure life offers. The drive home was quiet, windshield wipers struggling against the relentless storm. His taillights faded from view in the rearview mirror. On the passenger seat, the finalized divorce packet sat, signed, sealed, notarized. I'd file it first thing in the morning. That night, I finally slept with an unburdened chest, but the chapter hadn't fully closed. 3 weeks later, Serena requested a ride, booked directly through me. The irony of it wasn't lost on either of us. She had a final appointment, and apparently, I was still the one person she could count on to show up. I pulled up outside her building. She slid into the back seat wearing a navy blue pantsuit that looked like it had weathered too many exhausting days. The confidence she once wore like armor had faded, replaced by something far more fragile. "Where are we headed?" she asked. "Somewhere quiet," I replied. I steered us to a secluded riverside lot, empty except for a few long-haul trucks and the faint drone of traffic on the overpass. The city skyline shimmered in the water's reflection. "This'll do," I said. I tapped the center console and queued up the audio sequence I'd assembled. Not a single clip, an entire timeline. Serena's friends ridiculing me, laughing about my job, mocking her choice to settle for someone beneath Troy. Then the conversation from Roxy's balcony, Serena wondering aloud if she should reconnect with Troy for closure. Finally, Ellie's narration layered over the wedding photos, her explanation for why she hadn't come forward sooner. I let it all play, no commentary, just the truth, unfiltered. From the back seat, Serena sat frozen, her eyes locked onto my reflection in the mirror. Her face shifted slowly. recognition, disbelief, maybe regret. When the last recording ended, the only sound was the soft patter of rain on the roof. "Was that enough for you?" she asked flatly. "Almost," I replied. "What I really need is honesty. Not spin, not strategy." She scoffed, the sound bitter. "What version of honesty do you want? That I missed him? That I hated myself? That I wrecked everything?" "All of it." Her voice snapped like a branch. "Fine. Yes, I missed him. Yes, I fantasized about what might have happened if I'd chosen him instead. And yes, I kept the key because I wasn't ready to shut that door completely." I turned toward her, meeting her eyes without flinching. "And the wedding?" Her jaw clenched. Something flickered in her gaze, sharp and evasive. That was complicated." "No, it was straightforward," I said. "You kissed your ex-boyfriend at your best friend's wedding." I was standing 50 feet away. It meant nothing. To me, it meant everything. Headlights broke across the parking lot, casting long beams through the drizzle. A tow truck rolled in, dragging a smashed vehicle behind it. As it came closer, I recognized the wreck. Troy's BMW, still crumpled, paint scraped, the scars of impact untouched. Serena spotted it at the same moment. Her skin went pale. "What the hell is this?" The driver hopped down from the cab, clipboard tucked under his arm. From the passenger side, Jace Feller stepped out, giving me a nod. He'd handled the logistics, an official repossession, processed through legal channels. Everything by the book. "Just returning lost property," I said calmly. The flatbed tilted with a hiss of compressed air, and the mangled BMW rolled gently back onto the ground. The driver stepped off, looking around the empty lot with quiet confusion. "Is this where we're supposed to be?" he yelled across the parking lot. "Close enough," I called back. Just then, Troy stepped out of a cab that had barely pulled away. The moment he caught sight of Serena sitting in the back of my car, he froze. "What the hell is going on?" he demanded. "We're having a conversation," I said, voice level. He stormed toward the vehicle, his anger palpable in every movement. "Serena, get out, now!" She stayed put. "She's exactly where she needs to be," I said, cool and steady. "In the passenger seat." Troy reached for the handle, but by then I'd already stepped out into the rain, planting myself between him and the door. The wet pavement reflected the overhead lights, giving the whole scene a strange, cinematic shimmer. "Back off," I said under my breath. "This is insane, Nate," he growled. "You've proved your point." "It's over." He tried to peer past me at Serena through the open window. "You're really going to let him do this to us?" "There is no us," Serena said, her voice unwavering despite the downpour. "Bullshit," Troy shot back. "Tell him about last week." "About the hotel?" Something twisted in my gut. "What hotel?" I asked. Serena's eyes slammed shut. "Troy, stop!" "The Marriott downtown." "Room 1247, he said, almost smug. "Tell him what you told me. That marrying him was a mistake." I turned to Serena, waiting for her to contradict him. She didn't. Her silence was the answer. Troy's grin widened. He thought he'd just ended it all. "Go on, tell him how you—" I cut him off with a single punch. It wasn't rage, it was precision. My fist connected squarely with his jaw, and he staggered backward toward the edge of the lot. He caught himself, barely, rain soaking his face and shirt. Then he lunged at me. I was ready. I intercepted his swing, locked his arm, and used his own momentum to throw him onto the slick ground. He skidded through the mud, scrambling to his feet, dripping and furious. "Stay down," I warned him. He didn't listen. Head lowered, he charged again. I sidestepped and slammed a knee into his ribs as he passed. He collapsed, breathless, pain etched across his face. That ended it. Lying there, gasping for air, he stared up at the stormy sky. "I loved her first," he whispered. "No," I said, "you had her first." "Not the same thing." Grabbing his jacket, I hauled him upright. For a fleeting second, I considered letting him slip, sending him over the edge into the rushing river. Rain, slick pavement, low visibility. It would have been easy to call it an accident. But I didn't. I dragged him toward the curb and laid him beside his wrecked BMW. It's over, I told him. All of it. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed, likely responding to another crash along the rain-slicked highway above us. Not our scene, but a reminder that this moment, like the storm, wouldn't last forever. I turned and walked back to the car, leaving Troy with his bruises, his shattered ego, and his mangled car. Inside, Serena hadn't moved. She sat quietly in the back, staring at her hands. I opened the door and asked, "The hotel, how long?" "It doesn't matter anymore." "It does to me." She finally met my eyes, her cheeks streaked with tears and rain. 3 months, she said, voice soft. Maybe 4. It started after the recording. "So this is my fault?" "No," she said, "it's mine. All of it." She brushed at her face with the back of her hand. "I was angry. Confused. I didn't know what I wanted. I needed someone to understand me. And Troy was that someone? He said the things I needed to hear." I slid into the driver's seat and fired up the engine. Warm air flowed through the vents, thawing the cold silence between us. "What happens now?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Now," I said, "you decide who you're going to be." In the mirror, I saw Troy slowly rise, phone to his ear, probably calling for a ride. His car was already hooked up and being hauled away, tail lights disappearing down the wet road. "Take me home," Serena said quietly. "Which one?" She paused. The hesitation said everything. "The new place," she replied. "The one you'll never visit." I shifted into drive and pulled away, wipers ticking steadily like a countdown. Each sweep another second in the slow unraveling of what used to be us. By the time we reached her building, the rain had eased into a fine mist. The streetlights glowed in soft halos, making everything look washed out and tired. I reached inside my coat and pulled out a sealed folder. It was signed, notarized, final. The end of our marriage, the separation agreement. 7 sheets of paper. That's all it took to dismantle nearly 10 years of shared existence, dividing assets, shutting down accounts, and apportioning belongings we'd barely used together. "This covers everything," I said, handing her the folder. Inside, the documents laid out the terms, how the lease would end, how the furniture would be split, and the steps required to close what remained of our joint financial footprint. She flipped through the pages with the detached precision of someone who'd reviewed 1,000 contracts. Years in public relations had made her fluent in fine print. "You're keeping the house?" she asked, meaning the small rental left to me by my grandfather. Never our home, never hers. "It was separate property," I replied. "And the car?" "It's registered under the business," I said. "A fleet asset," she noted blandly. She understood the terminology, always had. Now it served as the language of separation, clinical, legal, final. "The savings will be divided proportionally," I added. "Your firm's income stays with you. My rideshare earnings stay with me. And the marital waste?" Our eyes met briefly in the reflection of the rearview mirror. "Logged," I said. "Hotel invoices, dinners charged to our shared card, costly presents bought for someone else." Her mouth hardened. "You've been monitoring me. I've been safeguarding myself." Without further comment, she signed each document with rigid, deliberate strokes, then passed them back across the console. "That everything?" I reached into my inner pocket and produced a small, well-worn flash drive. Not the newer ones I'd used before. This one was older, the casing dulled by months of handling. I placed it in her palm. "This is the rest of it," I said. "Recordings, images, sworn statements, financial logs, all the evidence I've compiled over the past 6 months." She stared at the USB stick. "Why are you giving this to me?" "I don't need it anymore." "And what's stopping me from getting rid of it?" "Nothing. It's yours now. You can destroy it if you want." She slowly curled her fingers around it, then opened the door and stepped into the night. I watched her cross the parking lot, walking tall, posture unbroken by everything she'd just lost. At the entrance to her building, she paused and turned back. "Nate?" "Yeah? Do you think we were ever truly happy?" I didn't answer right away. I let the question echo a bit. I thought about those first few years, The laughter, the late-night talks, the tiny dreams that once seemed like everything. I said at last. She gave one small nod, then disappeared inside. I didn't pull away immediately. I let the car idle, the soft hum of the heater filling the silence. Outside, the rain had finally ended, leaving the pavement slick and glowing under the lamplight, fresh, empty, clean. In the passenger seat was another USB drive, same make, same look, but this one held the complete archive, the unfiltered version. Every moment, every voice, every receipt, every betrayal, all obtained lawfully, all precisely time-stamped. I didn't need it anymore, but I wasn't ready to let go of it either. Not for revenge. That chapter was closed. For memory. For those inevitable days when someone might try to convince me I was never enough. My phone buzzed. A message from Jace. "Beer tomorrow?" I replied. "Yeah, my treat." Another ping. This time from an unknown number. "Are you available? Pick up at 10? Back to work. The city never slept. Always someone needing to get somewhere. Some wanted peace. Others wanted time. Most just needed someone reliable behind the wheel. I steered out of the lot, merging onto the open road. The asphalt shimmered, but the storm had moved on. The surface was wet, but it held firm. In my mirror, her building grew smaller until it vanished completely. I kept driving. No music, no talk radio, just the low thrum of tires and the steady pulse of motion. Somewhere out there, someone was waiting for a ride. No questions, no judgment, just quiet trust. A driver. One who showed up when he said he would. Who got people where they needed to be, without deviation. Reliable. Professional. The engine beneath me murmured like a promise, stable, unshaken, always moving forward. And I let it carry me toward whatever came next.